Welcome to the Inner Mastery Series. I am your host, Brad Johnson, and I want to welcome you to this very special series that is free on YouTube, as I'm going to be creating a multitude of different episodes that will be referred to as lessons. And through these lessons, we're going to be looking very deeply into the understanding of going into the inner world, of mastering yourself, of learning to become a powerful creator, of seeing, of witnessing, of observing your entire life transform before your eyes as you become practical with working through the inner mastery of yourself and seeing this incredible, profound change taking place deeply within yourself. Now, it is important for you to understand that these words that you are hearing are not coming from my conscious self. It is not coming from my own intellect or ego. These teachings are not even my own. These teachings are that of higher consciousness. They are of that of spirit. They are of that of creator. They are of that of the higher self. Whatever term you wish to use that represents the grander consciousness of your being. This would represent where these teachings are coming from. They are not polluted by egotism or anything of that nature. There is no must, there is no should or shouldn't. It's nothing in that way whatsoever. All there is through these teachings, through this Inner Mastery series, are recommendations and reflections and education. Like any other form of education, you have to be the one to put all of this teaching into practice. You will have to be the one to utilize this education to your heart's content. It is very similar to how you learn to become a doctor, how to become an artist, how to become a professional athlete. You're not going to be able to do any of those things by reading a book or listening to an MP3. You are becoming familiar with this education, and you are putting it directly into practice. You are making yourself the inner master. You are entering inner mastery. And so I want to welcome you to the very first lesson, where we're going to be doing an understanding of looking into the basics to what inner mastery represents. I do not have a script in front of me. This is not coming through written word. This is coming through flow, the flow of grand consciousness, the flow of the higher self, the flow of spirit. Lesson number 1. The first thing we're going to look at in lesson number 1 is just firstly understanding the outer world. When we look at the outer world, we can primarily see a world of intellect. We see a world where everybody is performing practicality. Everybody is wearing clothing pretty much most of the time. Almost everybody is living inside a house or living in some particular type of shelter. There are cars on the road. There are roads. There is infrastructure. There is development. There are systems. Which means this entire world has been created through the intellectual mind. It has been brought forward through states of practicality, often for the purpose of convenience. When we use technology, we are using a convenient thing. When we are going to and from work, we use conveniences to travel to work. We use more technology to do the work. And again, we use technology to come away from work and go back home. We live inside our homes. We have technology all over the place. It continues to go on and on relating to the power of intellect. But when you look a lot deeper into the nature of intellect, because we value it so much in our culture, how did those practicalities come together? Somebody had a thought. And as somebody had a thought, they started to put pencil to paper, and they started to draw out these ideas. They drew out the ideas having a book with pages and being able to write letters, write words, write sentences, and document everything. Well, that became a technology. Then we got further up. We started looking into homes. We started looking into apartment buildings. We started looking into roads, advanced roads. We started looking into trains. We started looking into planes. We started looking into automobiles. All of these things, we could name a million things going back into ancient times. We could name a million things coming into modern times. And it's all just the same process. Somebody had a thought. That thought allowed something to be practically created here in the material world, the world of intellect. And this is a beautiful thing. We see many wonderful forms of technology. We see apparatus, we see material. Again, going back into the ancient times, where we had the wheel, where we had paper, or maybe we had hide, and we carved symbols, letters into that hide. We had tablets, and we had scrolls, and we just kept going. And more technology was being developed. Castles, temples, churches, common homes, common housing, huts, and it goes on and on and on. These are all just thoughts. Everything around you, if you're just listening to this right now, well, then there was a thought that allowed you to listen to this through technology, to hear this voice here and now. Even your own body is what we could consider to be the most complex technology that exists. And scientists nowadays can still not really figure the body out. It's too advanced. It's too deep. But guess what? Your body itself is just a thought. Your body itself had a feeling behind it, that therefore came a thought, that therefore became a choice, a decision to create this body and to apply action to making this body what it could be, and to therefore seeing the result from the actions. What I have just described to you is what's known as the 5 acts of manifestation: feeling, thought, choice, action, result. That's all the intellectual world. It is the result of manifestations. It is the result of thought made into material. That's the intellect. But again, to where everything relating to what we use on a commonly frequent basis every single day was just contrived by thought. So all you're doing is when you're picking up your phone, you're picking up a thought form. When you're getting inside your car, you're going inside a thought form. When you're stepping inside your house, you're stepping inside a thought form. When you're going to school, you're stepping inside a thought form. When you're educating yourself to be an artist, you're learning a great nature of thought forms that can therefore be made into something material. Same with being a doctor. Same with any other particular type of profession. A consortium of thought forms packaged together so that you can practically use it to become this certified expert at this area that you want to look deeply into. Behold inner mastery, because that's all you're doing here. You're looking into a consortium of thought forms, helping to educate you so that you can become an inner master. Develop yourself and work with the inner world, because the inner world is what truly matters. The outer world is just matter itself. It doesn't really matter. It's always about what is happening inside. It is your inner being that counts, not the outer world. So when we look at the outer world being that of intellect, or rather, looking at the outer world being that of effect, it is a plane of effect, which means it is the result of what we have been able to cause from within ourselves. Therefore, the inner world is the causal. So we have cause and we have effect. But when we look into the vastness of the inner world, what is it that we truly see? We see perfection. There is nothing flawed within the inner world. But when we look into the outer world, we may feel like there is something flawed. Maybe the way we live in society, maybe the way something is built, maybe something was built incorrectly, something wasn't done right. And so that's the intellect. So what is being said here? That if we simply rely upon our lives being that of intellect, you are going to be imperfect. Because the intellect can create flaws. Someone doesn't know how to build a house properly. Someone can't build a car properly because they're not working together with their inner world. They're not able to work with the thoughts, the consortium of thoughts that can make that certain thing function as it needs to, because they need to have that education. And that education is an inward process. That education is part of the perfection. Therefore, when you look at the education on how to build a car, and you have all the know-how within yourself to build that car, you'll be able to make a car in that truly functional design through the intellectual world. So again, this is letting you know that the inner world holds all knowledge. It holds all thought. It holds all feelings. It holds all expressions. The inner world is the world of perfection. The outer world, the world of the intellect, is a world of imperfection. Because it is just a reflection. And if all we're doing is just looking at something outside of ourselves and trying to reproduce it without understanding the inner mechanisms of it, we're not going to be able to replicate it properly. We're going to flaw. We're going to create these imperfections. We're going to create chaos. And there are many upon the earth that will look at the outer world relating to intellect and just try to copy or mimic what we see outside. They will rely so much on the outer world to try and guide them within. And that is a recipe for disaster. The outer world can't guide you. It's a plane of effect. So as the outer world is an effect plane, where it's just the result of manifestations, either that can be messed up, that can be flawed, or we could have some manifestations that truly worked out well. Nonetheless, it's an effect plane, and it represents imperfection. Because the intellectual plane is never going to tell you who you are. Do you think that your creations are going to tell you the entirety of who you are? No. They are only going to tell you a particle of who you are. Because you build a car, does that just make you a car man or a car woman? No, there's a lot more to you than just building a car. What about building a house? That you're being a construction worker. Is that all there is to you? No, because that's just a particle of what you are. You are not going to be able to identify yourself by playing with an outer world of intellect. You see, the intellect is not capable of guiding you. It is not capable of moving you into a state of perfection. Because it can't. It doesn't even really know where it comes from. All it knows is that it was created. A car is not going to have an intelligent conversation with you. It's not going to tell you exactly where it came from. You have to talk to its creator. And therefore, its creator, through going within themselves, are going to give you the ideas about how they created this car. They're going to tell you about the education that came from within for them to build this car, or build this house, or build this simple tool, or build your smartphone. That goes to the Creator. So what are you saying here, Brad? Are you saying that if I want to understand where everything comes from, I have to talk to its Creator? Exactly. Because by you just talking to a car, right? You got a 2018 model. Yeah, sure, it looks very, very nice and all that. You're going to sit down and have a conversation with that car, and that car is going to have a conversation with you, telling you about how it got created? No, because it doesn't know how it got created, because it does not have that intelligence to share with you. But its Creator does. Its Creator knows exactly how it was brought into being. The very nature of that instrument, of that vessel, of that car, contains all of the energy, imprint of the Creator upon it, because it was the Creator that made that car. It was the Creator that made your phone. It's the Creator that made your computer, made your MP3 device here, so that you could listen to this conversation. The Creator can tell you everything. So what does that mean? It means that if we go into the inner world, we are going to understand how we are created. Because the inner world is a world of perfection. It is the causal. It is what's going to tell you about how everything came to be. All of that knowledge, all of that wisdom is contained inside. It is never outwards. So why is it that we spend so much time trying to figure things out, and that's the problem? You're trying to figure things out rather than try to figure things in. Do you see? There is too much outward emphasis on feeling that we need to rely solely on the intellect, solely on modern science, about understanding the nuts and the bolts about the universe. That's not going to happen. And this is not to disappoint modern scientists. All you really have to do is just do some tweaks. Just like I said, a car is not going to tell you where it came from. You have to talk to its Creator. A device that is created is not going to tell you where it came from. You have to talk to its Creator, because its Creator knows everything about how it was created. It knows every particle regarding that device. I know exactly what I needed. I know exactly what I needed to put together. I knew the programming. I did everything. I melded everything together to make this device, to make a convenience. I am its Creator. So now we look inside ourselves and realize, if I go inside, I'm going to be able to speak to the Creator. I'm going to be able to speak to the Creator of me. I'm going to be able to speak to the Creator of this body. I'm going to be able to speak to the Creator of this earth. I'm going to be able to speak to the Creator of this galaxy. I'm going to be able to speak to the Creator of this universe. I'm going to be able to speak to creation. Well, isn't that exciting? Because that is what you are going to do. That is what you are going to learn through the Inner Mastery series. You're going to learn how to go within yourself and become so fascinated and so desirable of exploring the inner world that you're going to forget all about the outer world. You're still going to be walking through the outer world. You're still going to be walking through the cities. You're still going to be driving your car. You're still going to be with your family. All of that is still going to be there. But you are looking at everything now with a greater depth. You are looking at everything now relating to how intellect really doesn't matter. It's just a property. It's like a worker bee inside a hive. All the worker bees do is they do exactly what the queen wants them to do, because the queen gave birth to all of them. And now these worker bees, that are the analogy of the intellect, are putting together more of the hive. They're going out, they're collecting pollen, they're bringing it back into the hive. They're doing everything that the queen bee tells them to do. Well, in this analogy, the inner world is the queen bee. The outer world are the worker bees. And the worker bees will never, ever defy their queen. They will never go against her. They will never dethrone her. They exist simply to fulfill everything that she tells them. And that is your inner world. You're the creator. And you are telling the outer world, this is what I'm reflecting. This is what I'm manifesting. This is what I'm attracting. This is what I'm repelling. This is it. This is it. This is it. And the material world bows its knee to you and does exactly what you tell it. It would never defy you. It will never strip you off your throne as being a creator. That's not possible because you as a creator are not tangible. You are an intangible essence of creation. How could you possibly be dethroned by something that exists in the material world? Unless you create some type of illusion about it. But all that is just an illusion. You're far beyond any illusion that you spin. You're far beyond any complex of material that you manifest. It's no more different than looking at a child in a sandbox. They can create all these figurines, they can create these castles, and they can imagine and pretend that those figurines are attacking that creator, but just their physical body. And that castle is shooting arrows with its soldiers inside at that creator's physical body. But that's not the creator. Do you think your physical body is a representation of you as a creator? Not even close. It's a particle. It doesn't even come close to understanding who you are. The physical body is an incredible device. It's the most sophisticated technology there is, but it's not even close to being you. Are you kidding? It's no more different than looking at a car. It's no more different than looking at a house or some other form of big technology that you're able to feast your eyes upon. It's a beautiful device. It's very complex. It literally has the capabilities within it that we can't even fathom. It's the most advanced device there is. But it's still not you. Not even close. Just a particle. So, now that we are understanding that everything relating to the outer world is nothing more really than a particle of ourselves, what about the grandness of ourselves? Well, as I told you, the aspect of yourself as a creator is boundless. Your ability as a creator is intangibility, and it is perfection, and it is boundless. So you have no borders or boundaries or conditions or limitations as a creator because you're intangible. You don't even know who you are right now. You don't even understand about what you truly are right now. Haven't you ever wondered who you are, what you are, the grandness of yourself, the greatness of yourself, the perfection of you? Have you ever thought about your soul, your spirit, your heart, your essence, the livingness of who you are, the spirit of who you are? Well, that's who you are. But you cannot define yourself intellectually because the intellect is an invention. It's a device. It's a platform that has been used to just allowing ourselves to experiment with our manifestations. The outer world, the world of the intellect, the world of the effect plane, is a sandbox. That's all it is. You've been playing in the sand ever since the day that you were born here. You were playing in the sand regarding crying as an infant, as soon as you emerged from your mother. You've been playing in the sand ever since you've been nursed by your mother. You've been playing in the sand ever since you got to have your first diaper changed. It's all just you playing in a big sandbox. And now you're meeting all these other co-creators in their own respective sandboxes, and they're parked right beside you. And you're sharing adventures with each other by going inside a sandbox and creating a body for yourself. And now that sandbox is shared by all of these other co-creators, gathered around all of these big sandboxes that have been pushed together. And now you're all just creating physical bodies, exploring this physical world, seeing how you can physically get along with each other, or maybe you don't. You start creating the monad of families. You start creating the monad of friends. You start creating the monads of bosses, employers, employees, teachers, acquaintances, strangers on the street, politicians, leaders, monetary systems, financial systems, educational systems, sociological systems. Everything's just being co-created together with all of these other co-creators that are, again, just as intangible as you are, who have created these little bodies and started playing in this momentous sandbox we call the Earth. And you're all just learning to see, can we get along with one another? Maybe there's people here, maybe there's creators that have got this creation all within their head, and they think that they're better than everybody else. And they want to try to manipulate, and they want to try and use, and they want to try and enforce things. And they're so very, very good at mind manipulation tactics, they got people buying into the idea that this person has a lot more stroke relating to physical reality than they do. And so they'll start creating kingdoms. They'll start creating empires. They'll start creating religions. Because to them, they feel like they're 100 miles ahead than everybody else. They've succumbed to the greed of the sandbox. I deserve to play with most of the sandbox, and the rest of you only get little bitty crumbs. And now we all just start looking at this and say, hey, wait a minute. There's a very small group of co-creators here that are pretending that they are so much greater than everybody else here on the planet, and that they are hogging about 90 to 95% of the sandbox, thinking that they have the ability to play with this sandbox on a larger capacity than everybody else. Isn't that odd? But other co-creators just don't seem to mind that. They have little bits of sand. They got a tiny little speck within their space in the sandbox and say, oh, it's okay. This is all I deserve. What happened to the creator here? I think this person over here has gotten a little carried away with seeing themselves as a physical body. I think they've gotten a little carried away with their personality complex. I think they're a little bit overshooting themselves now and thinking that they are attempting to agree in being a slave. That's pretty odd. And now more and more co-creators are starting to awaken to that. Hey, wait a minute. Why have I only been able to get this very small portion of sand to play with? What's going on? This gigantic sandbox is everything that we have all created. All 8 billion humans on this planet have created this giant sandbox. Why is the great majority of the planet only being allowed to play with a very, very small amount of this sandbox, and these small group of people here think that they can play with 90 to 95% of it. That makes no sense. And so the co-creators get together, they realize something is fishy here, and now they're going to start taking back their power. And as they start taking back their power, there's a lot of retaliation because these small groups of people have spent so very long hoarding the sandbox, creating whatever they felt they want. Well, the creators are now starting to wake up. The co-creators are coming together and saying, no, I don't think so. I think it's time to end all of this. I think it's time to expose what is going on here, to waken up as many co-creators as possible, and starting to see that this sandbox belongs to all of us, belongs to every single one of us. And I'm going to make sure that I'm going to share this with many people as possible so that we get the sandbox back together. So whenever you have felt that you have been playing with a very, very small portion of the sandbox, you've only been playing with the crumbs of life. You've only been playing with scraps. Because you have succumbed to the illusion of being the body created out of sand, rather than the intangible creator that you are. But here's the grandest illusion. It's not even about percentages relating to the sandbox. That sandbox in your reality is yours. Which means that massive sandbox that you're looking at right now, that we call the earth, every grain of sand within that sandbox is yours. And in another co-creator's reality, they're looking at that giant sandbox. Every grain of sand within that sandbox is theirs. And it continues, and it continues, and it continues. Which means everything there is yours. We may try to look at it intellectually and feel that we need to have an even distribution and percentage of the sandbox. But really, when you look at it, as you're the only one in your reality, you're the one that has brought this sandbox in its entirety into being, which means it exists in your reality. From another co-creator's perspective, it exists in their reality, which means 100% of the earth belongs to 100% of you. It doesn't even have to come down to the point of even distribution, because that too is just an illusion. But that's what we play with. So what is being said here? As a creator, everything belongs to you. That is the truth, with every condition, with every layer, with every filter stripped away. You are an infinite creator. You are truly intangible. And when you look into the perfection of yourself, you are unlimited, you are infinite, and you are perfect. In the next lesson, we're going to be going more into living inner mastery. We're going to look more into the ego, the mind, the emotions, illusions, and traumas, the power of our thoughts and feelings. We're going to explore this a great deal more, and helping you to understand what you truly are capable of when we go within and we start to play with the inner mastery that is indeed who we are. Thank you for listening to the first lesson, and I will speak to you again in the next lesson. May it be well with you. Thank you very much for checking out my channel. Below you'll see my links to social media, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. You can also go to healingcodecards.com, pick up your own Healing Code Cards body deck, and of course check out my website at newearthteachings.com. Thank you once again, and I'll see you in the next video.